Okay, how's everybody doing tonight? If you have not seen it before, that's my new trailer for Fade to Blue, the books that are coming out. This summer, springish. I'm not entirely sure. We haven't set a date, but the link is in the description for the sign up page for Fade to Blue. If you want to go and sign up there, so that you can be informed when the project goes live. I am here tonight with John from John's Longbox. We're just going to do a comic book team up with just John and myself. I'd like to talk about what we're doing and some good comics, and just to hang out with a bunch of you guys. How you doing, John?
Good. I just want to take this time. I'm making a comic called Fade to Orange. Joke. I always do what RJ does, but 2 months later. So it's going to be about a fireman who's solving a crime. I don't know. Just talking nonsense. How's everybody doing?
I think everybody's doing good. I see them in the chat. We got a number of regulars here. You can talk about Heroic Tales, though. I think your second book's coming out 4th of July.
Yeah. So I'm going to launch Heroic Tales #2 April 4th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Michael Bancroft's channel. So there you go. We're about 50% done with the art on the book. I just have to send out one story to get lettered. The other story, the art has to be finished up, and we're ready. So I'm a little bit more organized. I'm a little bit more ahead of the game. So I hope there's not as much as a wait. I think Renzo has less obligations than last time. I think he was drawing like 4 books at the same time he was drawing mine. So he said he didn't want to work with this fourth age guy anymore. So he's
well, I'm just going to share. I finally figured out a way to do this, so I can share some of the art for the new book, which is Artemis, that we're working on. I have a new manga artist working on it.
Oh, so yeah, this is
I exciting. Just want to take a look here. This is some of the art for that book. Let me see if I can make that bigger. But he's motoring along. So if any of you guys like manga style, this is the book that is going to come out. You have been introduced to this character if you read the graphic novel version of The Valiant Heroes, because she was that girl that was in basically the silent story, the 8-page silent story. So we got a number of pages done. He is just going gangbusters, and this looks like professional manga, if you ask me.
That looks awesome. That looks really good.
So I haven't got any of the lettering done, and of course it's going to be manga, so we're going to do black and white. But yeah, he's got talent. This guy is just amazing, and he's doing the entire thing. Like, he's giving me the pencils, and then he's doing basically a manga overlay on it, which is you see like the textures and all that kind of stuff in the background. So there's some beautiful art just coming out of this guy. And that's about all. Are we on page 8? So we might go to page 10 here just to how's about page 9? There we go. We'll leave it at that. But yeah, this is a beautiful looking book that's going to be coming out. I'll probably do it. I don't know, depending on how people want this book to look. It might be both manga style and floppy, depending on what people want. But yeah, that's the new book that we're working on right now, and it is going really quickly. So any of you newer people out there, if we got younger people in the crowd who like manga, read manga, that this is basically going to be a manga. I would like to probably get someone to translate it into Japanese and Korean as well, so that I can sell it in that way. So
you should talk to the guys who do Iconic Comics, because they're actually getting their comics sold in Japan, in bookstores in Japan.
All right.
Style manga. You've been reading manga for a long time, right?
Yeah, off and on. I don't read a lot, but every once in a while I find something I really want to read.
What would you recommend to some? I haven't read much manga. I've read like Go 13, Maya the Psychic Girl, like all the stuff that came out from like Eclipse Comics and
right.
back then.
Newer stuff. I don't know about newer stuff. I don't keep up on what is actually coming out. But if you're looking for something that's kind of like I don't know, a Western story, something like, I'm always shilling for Claymore. Everybody always says Berserk, but I think go read Claymore. It's a little bit hard.
It's like a Cowboys and Indians.
No. It's very much like Berserk. It's basically set in an alternate timeline Earth, but it's
Oh, I got confused when you said Western. I thought you meant like how Americans would use.
oh no,
Okay.
no, it's a fantasy, which is basically, I don't know. I think their backdrop is like medieval Germany, as if it was
Oh, wow.
something like that, right? But yeah, you have all these women, which are basically half breeds between demons and women, and they have to fight a
Oh,
whole.
so my ex-girlfriends. This is a comic about my ex-girlfriends.
The only hard thing about it,
Chapter 1, Paula. Chapter 2, Regina. Oh my God. I can't read this. It's too scary.
uh, I was gonna say the only thing, if you read the manga, it's a little bit difficult because it's all black and white. A lot of the girls look the same, so you got to actually pay a lot of attention to very small details within their costumes and stuff like that.
And is it backwards? Because I think I would have a difficult time reading that.
Well, you can get it both ways.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to find a American copy of it, right? You go to some, but I say most of them sold would probably be backwards. But yeah, that's the one that I would recommend above all else. But let's talk about some good North American comics. Last time we started off by talking about I think it was Web of Spider-Man. But what recommendations? I always have people asking me, John, what do you recommend to read if I'm going to start just a good series of North American comics or a good story arc?
Like brand new, or are we
no old stuff?
Oh, geez, what I always say, like, you can't go wrong with, you pick up the Claremont Byrne X-Men to the point where people know what I'm going to say before I even say it. You get a trade paperback of those early John Byrne, Claremont. To me, that is the pinnacle of American comic books. Storytelling, art, everything about it, characterization. And if you like that, I would also say like the Judas Contract by the New Teen Titans. Did you ever read that, RJ?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. What would you think I'm misleading anybody by saying that?
No, the thing is about Teen Titans is I don't know. Honestly, the Teen Titans has fallen off a lot because I found all of that stuff in a dollar bin probably like 5 years ago. I couldn't believe it, right? And it's all George Perez stuff and everything about Teen Titans. The DC stuff I think you can get if you go to your comic shop fairly cheaply. Not the John Byrne X-Men, but the story is about the same level quality right there.
Yeah. I really like them. And of course, you're going to agree with me. The Paul Levitz, Keith Giffen, Legion of Superheroes, like the Great Darkness saga.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but I will say, I think the impact of the big reveal, and again, I'm not going to spoil it, I think that'll probably be wasted on modern readers because the villain literally wasn't used for like 10 years. And, you know, it was like almost like a forgotten villain. And then, oh my God, this guy, you know, so it was a big freaking deal. And ever since then, that villain shows up like every third issue, you know, so kind of like Galactus over at Marvel, you know, they use Galactus. Like when Galactus showed up, it used to be like, oh, this is a Galactus issue. Like everybody, let's get together and check out this. Now it's like, oh, Galactus just got beat by Squirrel Girl. It's like, who hasn't defeated Galactus at this point? But old comic, like I have you ever read The Elementals by Bill Willingham?
Oh yeah, that's that Comico?
Yeah,
I remember who put that up.
Oh, I forgot that you liked it. That is, those are kind of hard to find because Comico was mismanaged. I don't know if it was like mismanaged on purpose, like a criminal thing, or mismanaged because of stupidity. But those comics are hard to find, and I don't think the there's a Natural Order trade paperback. I'd recommend that. So, but like the Avengers, the Korvac saga. Oh my God, that was some great comics. Just George Perez artwork, and I think Pablo Marcus inking. You know, and I think it was Jim Shooter actually writing it. Those were, you know, guys, anything from Avengers 150 to Avengers 200 is a classic comic. The first John Byrne run on the X-Men, like the Skrull saga, you know, John Byrne just did the art on the Fantastic Four for like 20 issues. Then he left, and then he came back and he wrote and drew. But like the forgotten John Byrne run on the Fantastic Four, I mean, the John Byrne run on the Fantastic Four gets enough love, and get that. That is, to me, that's the high point of the Fantastic Four, which kind of hurts because, you know, Jack and Stan. But Jack and Stan, they are the foundation that everybody built, but John Byrne kind of built a skyscraper on that solid foundation. But his first run was some good solid comics that kind of fell by the wayside because he got outshined by his newer stuff. Oh, Tony Grigo says the Mike W. Barr and Alan Grant Batman. Yes, that is probably my favorite Batman run. Sorry, Chuck Dixon, my buddy. That is a really good run.
Have you ever? I can't remember off the top of my head. What's the Neil Adams line? What was it called? It was. Remember, he started his own line. What was it?
Continuity Comics.
Continuity, yes. Yeah. There was since we're talking manga here, if anybody likes say Ghost in the Shell, there was I always thought it was a really good series put out, which was art done by Neil Adams, which was Cyber Rad from on his own line. And that was really very like cyberpunk kind of thing. And it's very 90s. And basically the guy wakes up, he's part of a punk band, and he doesn't realize that he's a cyborg, and he basically thinks he's a human, and he's gone through all this stuff where he basically has cybernetic powers that start coming out all over the place as he's being attacked. It's really good if you like cyberpunk.
What's the name of the comic?
Cyber Rad.
Oh, okay. I've seen it around. I've never picked that up. Those like for Continuity Comics, I remember Skate Man, who was a 1-issue series, a Miss Mystic, there was like a superhero like Ultra Mega or something like that. I forget.
Right.
But I never got Cyber Rad. I was never a big fan of cyberpunk. I'm still not really sold on cyberpunk. Like I kind of don't like when anybody says punk editor. Now there's solar punk. It's like, knock it off. I don't know. George Morales says the problem with Teen Titans, it was 80s and Prez could only do the 80s perm with Wonder Woman. I mean, Starfire and Jericho looked terrible. Yeah. George Perez's weakness was hairstyles, and his children looked terrifying. If you ever saw George Perez draw Baby Franklin in the Fantastic Four, I would have sold that kid.
This is Cyber Rad here.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, beautiful artwork.
Yeah, but Neil Adams, I think, did all the art for, at the very least, the first arc. Quite honestly, I only found this because our local McDonald's, there was a 7-Eleven next to our local McDonald's, and where I was living at the time, and it was the only place that I could find this stuff, and I kept on going back there to that one 7-Eleven to find Continuity Comics.
Oh, wow.
Like month after month.
That's weird that you'd find them at a 7-Eleven.
This one right here, that's what is it? It's a glow in the dark cover.
Okay. And this is it, 5 issues?
Let me see here. There's 5, 8. No, we got 6, 7.
Because Continuity Comics were weird. Like they were, like you said, they were hard to find, and like they did a lot of like corporate stuff, right? Like didn't he do like ads for like brush your teeth, kids? Like that was the whole point. Like the main moneymaker was doing corporate stuff, and then comics was almost like their side hustle. But they obviously wanted to do comics, but corporate pamphlets paid the bills.
I'm not entirely sure. But back at that time, I didn't pay any attention to the corporate part of it. I was
a kid. I just wanted the comics. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Mike, Tony Grigo brings up Mike Barr and Alan run of Batman. What's your favorite run on Batman? I assume every comic book guy's got a favorite run of Batman.
Favorite run of Batman would probably be it's really odd, but it's the tie-in with what is it, Millennium, I think, I can't remember, but it was I should bring it up, but who the heck, like, names elude me when I need them the most.
I know. Sorry to put you on the spot. Yeah.
I can see it
was so good. Like because I got into Batman. Well, I mean, as a kid, you always got into Batman, but I started collecting Batman at the end of the Jim Aparo years. So
Jim Aparo, yes, that's exactly it.
It was, and that was just so. That's my Batman when I close my eyes. And then there was like this little weird period where Neary was drawing Batman. I think he was also writing Batman. You know, the same guy that did those early Excalibur comics, and it was just so good and so like abstract, but real. If that makes any sense, like people had like exaggerated features, but it looked so cool, like a comic book should. You know, I kind of think like super realistic comic books. Yeah, it's okay. You know, I like it when it's a little off.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, no, the real reason, because I always had comics around my house, right? Two brothers, and their older brothers are buying comics, but you don't think that that events will pull you into other titles, but that's what it did for me for Batman. It was one where basically I started buying it on the regular after the Manhunter crossovers that went through the entire thing. That was Jim Aparo run in Batman. It wasn't Detective Comics, it was Batman. He was still doing Batman at the time, so that pulled me into Batman right there, just because I was buying all of the crossovers for the Manhunter saga.
Yeah, I remember that Manhunter set that. Yeah, but there was a lot of crossover. What was your favorite crossover? Now that you made me think of crossovers.
Favorite crossover? Are we talking a long term, big ones, or just small ones?
Company-wide crossover, you know, like Secret
Company-wide?
Wars or Manhunter, Millennium. I'm trying to think of all the other ones.
Well, I'm sorry, I have to go back to the old standard, but Crisis on Infinite Earths was just amazing.
Crisis on Infinite Earths for DC is still my favorite, and Secret Wars 1 is still my favorite for Marvel. They were the first, and they were different and innovative and exciting, you know, and the rest of them just became like, oh, we did it before, now let's keep doing it, you know, like it should have been like reserved for something really worthwhile, you know.
There was some really good crossovers for Crises as well. Some of them failed miserably, I think, like Booster Gold, or if Booster Gold was around then, I think, but but the Superman, like I think it was DC Comics Presents, was a crossover, and they had the two Supermans meeting from different Earths at that time. It's like, this is amazing.
And if I remember, that was like Joe Ordway drew it too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm seeing everybody's favorite Batman's The Long Halloween, War of the Jokers. I didn't read the War of the Jokers. Dark Prince Charming one. I don't think I know that. Green, yeah. The Long Halloween is good. I don't know the War of the Jokers. Hush was good. You know, Jewel says Green Lantern, the Sinestro Corps War is the best crossover. Was that throughout all of DC, or was that just through the Green Lantern titles? I remember that, but I don't remember if it was company-wide. But yeah, that was pretty good.
I always say the best. I don't know if it's really even a crossover. It seemed like a crossover at the time. The thing that really got me was Neil Adams, or not Neil Adams. It was Art Adams doing the 2-issue series, which was the New Mutants, and I think Paul Smith did some of it too. New Mutants and X-Men Visit Asgard. That was amazing.
Yeah, I'll never forget. He had that Storm dressed up as a Valkyrie. That was really cool. That was really cool. I mean, Art Adams, forget it. He did. I always, I'll catch some hell for saying this, but I always like, why is Neil Adams drawing the worst? Like the whole Mojo stuff. I always hated Mojo and everything about Mojo. The only thing that good came out of Mojo was Longshot. I like that character, but you know, there was something just disturbing about that big fat blob in that like scorpion chair. I just never liked that character. But I did appreciate that it was X-Men stories that wasn't like, oh, woe is me, we're mutants. You know, Mojo comics were just superhero comics.
Funniest thing in the world, I think, about those Mojo stories was that's where you got X Babies from. And it seemed like I don't know if that was before the time. I don't know if manga was doing the same thing, if there was inspired by it, because they have like chibi stuff where you have the characters all like little baby kind of versions of them. But yeah, that's where you got the baby version of X-Men, and that just wouldn't stop. They just kept on going and going.
They did stuff like they had like the Bamfs. They made like a little cartoon that was, you know, like inside the X-Men there was like a little Bamf once in a while. Then they became like real pixie elves or something. Yeah, Blackest Night I actually liked, the Blackest Night story, and then they did like the extra issue of everybody turned it into Green Lantern. But I mean, I like that whole lantern, all the different colors of the to me it made sense. And this is funny because to me, the emotional spectrum, but Will is not a spectrum. You know what I mean? Like Will is not a spectrum. So it just drove me nuts that green was for Will, but blue was hope. You know, the rest of them were all emotions, and Will is not an emotion. Will is like an attribute or virtue or something. Yeah, the X babies.
Zach Dan, if you don't know about X Babies, what they are is Mojo created a clone version of every X-Men at the time, which is mid 80s. And they were all basically just very chibi versions, very baby versions of all the characters, but they still had, they basically had the Little Rascals meets the X-Men. There you go.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, Mojo, his whole thing is he runs a TV studio in another dimension. And it was basically goofing on reality TV before there was reality TV. Really, it is kind of, and I always say anything that happens in the real world, comics did it 20 years earlier, and here's more proof. So Mojo would rig up these like reality shows, and like Longshot was like basically surviving Squid Game in the Mojo world, and he became like a superstar because he always survived because he was luck. And then they captured the X-Men to have them fight because their ratings were going down, and then he made an X Babies TV show in his Mojo universe. So, you know, and he made like the Bamfs in his Mojo universe. So it was just like a whole other universe where they could do these cutie pie stuff that doesn't really mess with the main continuity. It's kind of brilliant in a way. I'm trying to click on the quotes like it's my channel. You know, Walt Simon's Orion was so good and so underrated. Absolutely agree with you.
I just want to say, since we're talking about manga too, people were saying, comparing manga, let's say the Mojo world would be to manga. There was a really good story called Dead Man Wonderland, basically where they would take prisoners who were on death row and put them into basically an arcade where they would have to survive. So it's a really good manga.
Okay. Zach says, I guess all adults are X babies. Yeah. Okay. Not me. I'm still a baby.
Sandro says Superman Infinite City. I don't know that.
I don't know this one. Alessandro, what year is that around? And I love your eyeball avatar. That is so cool. Longshot was really popular in the 90s. Wonder he was written off. He's not around anymore. That's a shame. He was an interesting character.
Well, he was written off in the fact that Dazzler basically divorced him and took off. I don't even know where her kids are though. So it's ridiculous.
They had kids. Again, I quit X-Men and Marvel in 2015. Can't believe I'm 10 years out of date with Marvel. Jewel says, according to EVS, who's Ethan Van Sciver, it was originally the motivational spectrum, but John's changed it to, well, that kind of makes more sense given that we were given willpower. And if you're going to build other colors, to me, it would have to be like attributes. Like if I was to make the colors like blue, like if will, like another one would be intellect. Like I would turn it into like the Dungeons and Dragons stats. One would be like strength, one would be endurance. You know what I mean? That's what I would have done. Emotion kind of makes sense, but you're starting with will. Am I talking nonsense, RJ? Sometimes I get carried away.
No, I think they shot themselves in the foot, especially DC, trying to explain everything, like the whole Green Lantern spectrum and then the Speed Force and everything else.
I hate the Speed Force. I do like the color lanterns, but I hate the speed because there's more colors. You know what I mean? But the Speed Force, it turned the Flash and all those guys into gods. They could time travel. They could heal fast. Like, you know, I don't know. That's why, like, my characters, I want them to be like a couple of people goof on me because I always talk about how weak my characters are, and I'm like, I don't find that to be a bad thing. Like the average Marvel superhero could probably beat my characters because I like weak is more interesting. Like that's why everybody likes Batman over Superman these days, if you ask me. What did he say? Motivational makes sense. And then nobody's allowed to be happily married in comics. Yeah. Tom Brevoort basically said Peter Parker's allowed to date, but he's not allowed to get married. Why? What's wrong with you, Tom Brevoort? Are you unhappy? I think you need therapy, Tom Brevoort. And that's my character. If I may shield my character again, my character, the patriarch, is happily married and he's a loving father. He loves his kids. His best day would be a day that he's not needed in costume and could stay. Like, that's going to be a running theme in the comics, is that they're trying to stay home and play Dungeons and Dragons with his kids, and it always gets interrupted.
I got Sound Engraver here with a $2 super chat. Thank you very much, Sound Engraver. What color lantern would you be, John?
Oh, probably orange, greed. I want all the comics. I don't want to share my comics with anybody.
I don't actually know the entire spectrum of Sound Engraver, so I couldn't say.
Are you hope? Are you fear? Are you willpower? Are you love? RJ, I think you're love. What are the other ones?
Oh, look at this. Green Arrow, Longbow Hunter.
That's a good one. That is that comic made me a Mike Grell fan for life. I'm trying to think if I even knew who Mike Grell was before that.
That was probably the first, one of the first, if not the first graphic novel that I ever owned.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good comic. And that did to Green Arrow what Dark Knight Returns did to Batman, except it didn't deconstruct it. It made it more realistic, but I don't think it deconstructed. I mean, the bad thing was that Black Canary lost her powers after being like beaten up. Then Uncle Dr. Doom raised the kids while the patriarch is busy saving people. Yeah, he's goofing on me talking about the Fantastic Four earlier today. I just hated that Reed and Sue's kid Valeria went to go live with Dr. Doom. You're 3 years old. Listen to your parents. I don't care how smart and super intelligent the kid is. She's still 3 years old. Maybe she's super intelligent, but she doesn't have the maturity. And she goes to live with Dr. Doom. What kind of bad parents? That drives me nuts.
I think that's the one of the. I should do a video on that, John, because with the whole Superman sending Superboy off to be raised by what I can't in space. The whole thing is just bad parents all over the place in modern comics.
I think the theme is that most current comic book people either have bad parents or hate their parents.
Oh yeah. Listening to all of those podcasts of Marvel over the years, it's like, oh, I'm estranged to my parents. Like every second person would be on there talking about how they didn't like their parents from one reason or another.
Your boy Zach, as much as he's going berserkowitz these days, he is right by saying most of these comics were made by childless weirdos. Me being a childless weirdo myself, but I had a happy childhood. I always joke that if I ever got famous and I was on a talk show, that my joke was going to be, I'm going to sue my parents for not getting divorced, having a large family, and giving me a happy childhood, because now I can't fit in with my peers. To tone down the Speed Force, they should put limitations on it. I don't know what to read. I mean, the human blood cells can only split so many times before they are degraded. Aging. Yes, everything. I don't want to speak for RJ, but I think you would agree with me that like you got to put consistencies on superpowers. Like that's one of the reasons why I don't like Green Lantern is it's never specifically defined exactly what he could do. Can he move planets? Yes. Can he go through walls? Yes. Except when the story they have him tied up and then he can't get through the rope. You know what I mean? It's inconsistent. Like everybody kind of knows what Spider-Man can do. And I think if Spider-Man all of a sudden started to fly away or shoot lasers, everybody would object to that. Like, you can't do that. Spider-Man doesn't do that. Even the casual comic fan would say that. But, so I like clearly defined superpowers and clearly defined weaknesses and limitations. And then
that's why I think that I really was gravitated towards Mike Baron's Flash when it first came out.
That's a perfect example. He needed to eat to maintain, his metabolism. And I think Wolverine, that guy should be eating, like to the point, like if he's fighting and regenerating, like he should stop regenerating, because how much extra energy could the cells have to repair themselves? Like that should be a tactic. If I was writing Wolverine, I would just have like ninja after ninja after ninja. Like I would be like this evil guy who didn't care. And Wolverine's fighting and fighting and fighting to the point where he's not regenerating anymore because he literally is running out of stored energy. And now double the attack. Now press the attack. You know what I mean? Now we got him, kind of thing.
John, you just described one of the storylines for one of my characters that everybody knows if they know the Thomas Valiant universe.
Oh, there we go. Spoilers for RJ's comic. No need to buy it, anybody.
But that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, matter of fact, get Heroic Tales instead on April 4th.
Alessandro says, what do you think about the fact that most recent movie versions, they made Spider-Man's Aunt May younger? I don't know. Aunt May is just Aunt May to me. She should be dead, by the way. She should have died with one more day. But
likes Marissa Tomei. Marissa Tomei is good to look at. We do like to look at beautiful women. And it's a known fact that older women don't sell well in so that it's as mean as it is, it's true. But Aunt May is Aunt May, and she should be an old lady. As much as I like Marissa Tomei, I was not happy with the casting. If I was
like the whole Harkness thing, right? Like she was an old witch,
right?
The whole that's who she is, and that's part of her character. If you ask me, they were making a new character with the whole.
Right, she's a new character. I didn't see the show, but like if she all of a sudden was like old because her spell wore off, I would, because if I had magic powers and I was an old man, I would turn myself into a 25-year-old handsome guy. You know what I mean? It's just human nature. But so I once you're magic, I'll give you a little bit of leeway. But does anybody see the show? Does she turn into an old lady? If she turns into an old lady, then I'll be like, okay. But and I don't want to say attractive because that woman's not too attractive. That's giving her too much credit. Life is moments. The more good moments you have, the more you can say you had a good life. You never had a good life till you can't really write one. Yeah.
Let me ask you this question, John.
Sure.
Because this happened all the time, even back in the 80s, but did it ever really tick you off when they started off with a character that was very, very ugly and was made that way, and then slowly over the years, as the character became more popular, they would get more and more attractive to the point exactly. I'm thinking of like Callisto.
You're talking about Kitty Pryde.
I was talking about Marrow. Actually, I was thinking about Marrow.
Oh, okay. But Kitty Pryde was supposed to be, they even made a point that she was flat chested to the point where she was looking at Storm going, look at that body, but she was a plain looking, flat chested, awkward teenage girl who's now a bombshell. I could see the constant training. She would have a nice body and everything like that, but she was supposed to be plain looking. But yeah,
Alessandro has a question. He says, RJ, I have a problem when I write stories. I get lost in the details of the setting rather than focusing on the characters. What do you recommend? I recommend trying to write the Marvel way. And then if you want to flesh it out, go ahead. That's what you should do. Start with the bare bones.
Okay.
But Kitty was supposed to be, I think, based on Ripley from Alien.
Oh, really? Then it's mean to say plain because she's based on a real person, and I feel bad.
But yeah, she was pretty plain. I mean, people might not think of her in that fashion as an actress, but as a character, yeah, Ripley was supposed to be plain.
Yeah, I never liked Sigourney Weaver. I never thought she was attractive. As a movie star, like the lady in the supermarket, you'd be like, okay. But as a movie star, I always thought she was, rather mannish. Why would Aunt May be old to begin with? She should be an adult before Peter's mother was born. Aunt May would realistically be 26. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe she's Pete's mother's older sister. I don't. My oldest brother is, 30 years older than my youngest brother. So a 30-year difference. So say, and then say Peter's mother had Peter late in life, which is why she's dead. But I don't know. But yeah, she's an old frail lady who survives like attacks by Dr. Octopus, being buried alive, thrown off bridges. You know what I mean? She's the frailest woman in the world who survived more than the average Marine. Yep. Yeah, I remember she was like jealous of the way people looked at Megan. Yeah.
Tony asks, let me see, I hit the wrong one. Tony asks, what is the biggest comic creator I've met? Probably Mike Barron, I would say. Chuck Dixon? Yeah, I guess so. Chuck Dixon, I don't know, who'd you say bigger, Chuck Dixon or Mike Barron?
I kind of put Chuck Dixon and Mike Barron in the same category. They're both big creators. But I think Mike has more famous created characters, where I think Chuck Dixon is more, working on other people's projects.
Plus, Mike does have a lot of non-comic stuff as well.
Yeah, although Chuck has the movie coming out this month.
Does he?
Yeah, that movie, A Working Man, with Jason Stratham, that's based on Lee Von Cade books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Chuck's got a movie coming out. There was a comment that I wanted to address, but I can't see. When you talk about old, Maggie Sawyer from Metropolis Police Department, she was supposed to be like an old, butchy woman, and now I'm reading about her in the Batwoman comic. She's the love interest of Batwoman, and she's a hot young thing. You know what I mean? She was supposed to be like a pushing retirement age, weathered, haggard not old woman, because I'm the same age as me, but you know what I mean? And now she's like a young, hot piece. Yeah. I'm trying to be respectful of my language on RJ's show. I don't want to curse.
But another one would be Callisto, because she was supposed to be like a Morlock. She lived underground. She was homeless. She got scars all over her face. And then within 10 years, she's the pretty one in the corner. It's ridiculous.
Right. They also kind of implied that Mask made everybody ugly. Like that was their badge. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And you could also argue that Mask probably made her good looking after a while. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of characters. Yeah, you're right. Like they changed. Like, all right, Kitty was supposed to be like 13, 14 years old when she joined the X-Men. So yeah, maybe she grew up to be Vavoom later, and grew into a pretty face from constant training or whatever. But like, yeah, it's human nature to want to see pretty things, I always found it funny her boyfriend was named Peter Rasputin, Peter Wisdom, Peter Parker. She dated Peter Parker. Peter Wisdom kind of freaked me out because Peter Wisdom was Warren Ellis's self-insert character.
What was Peter Wisdom's powers? I can't even remember.
Didn't he make like laser knives or something stupid? Just like, Peter Wisdom, with a name like Peter Wisdom, it should have been like some sort of like preternatural like precognition or something like that. But I make laser knives and throw laser knives at people. I never liked that character. Yeah, Peter Wisdom was an MI5 agent on Excalibur. Yeah, he was a British agent. Yeah, Mask made Callisto pretty, but she also was one that gave her the tentacle arms. How did you? Yeah, didn't Mask go crazy and give everybody tentacle arms? She also gave Jean Grey tentacle arms, and that
took away Rusty's mouth.
Yeah, she messed with people for a while. You know what always bothered me? That there was a Morlock named Healer whose power was healing people right when Colossus needed it the most. What a happy coincidence. And you never really saw him again.
That was really one of the good parts, as you were saying, limitations on powers. The Fall of Mutants and the Morlocks, people got just massacred there because Angel got his wings taken off. Kitty went incorporeal and almost became a ghost because she couldn't control and couldn't become substantial. Colossus couldn't turn back into human form, right. All of these characters that you thought were just overpowered and all they got taken down a peg.
Yeah, that was cool. If I remember correctly, Colossus got superheated so that his armor cracked, and then couldn't turn back to normal for fear that he would bleed out. And that guy Healer, he only turned human in the presence of that Morlock Healer, and he still went out. There was a lot of cool consequences in that. I liked when the alien brood implanted an egg in Wolverine, but his healing factor killed it. But Wolverine was kind of disfigured for 6 months in comic book time, which is a long time in comics. I thought that was pretty cool. I remember Spider-Man broke his arm in 3 issues. He was in a cast.
Part of the Walter Simonson run for Thor was the fact that Thor had to wear the armor and the helmet because he was disfigured and his bones are starting to get crushed.
Yeah, what was it? I forget. Was that Curse?
Yeah, it was a curse. He was basically his bones became as frail as an old woman. That was the curse. But an
That,
old Asgardian woman, they would say.
that's right. Yeah, I like that. I like that. There was another like Scarlet Witch. I remember her arm was in a cast for like throughout like Avengers like 175 to like 185. You know, because it just showed you how fast those comics were supposed to happen. Like that's one thing John Byrne always addressed. He would say like he goes, by the time he was writing and drawing the Fantastic Four, he goes, the FF have only been around in 7 years. You know, so all of Marvel history was only 7 years old. And, you know, and that's how he explained Franklin never aged. And you know, I, I I just thought that was funny. That's such a comic book thing that you gotta sooner or later you have to address, like, how is Iron Man from Vietnam? How is Frank Castle in Vietnam and still around? You know, how is Spider-Man in high school in the 60s? Because comic book time is not our time.
Yeah, they tried to do that recently with Frank Castle by saying what is it? He didn't go to Vietnam. It was the American Sino War, which is basically the
yeah,
same thing, but you know.
Yeah, I don't know. If I was to write Frank, I just wouldn't address it. You know, just eternally the present kind of thing. But you know, what you're like, I don't think my comics will be around for 70 years, so I will age people up, and you know, the children will grow up, and you know, maybe too fast because I can't make a monthly comic. Well, what about your comics? Like from issue 1 of Thomas Valiant to issue 2 of Thomas, how much time is passing?
Well, that's the thing with my comics. They have a timeline stamp on the front for
Okay,
everyone. So it looks like it's probably like we started off 2021 and it said 2021 on it. But it wasn't the year that it came out. It was the year that it's set in. So it's
right,
going to continue on that way. And we're going to have jumps in time. But the thing again, too, about a lot of my characters, not a lot of my characters, several of my characters are characters that, basically don't age the way that normal people would age. And so you have characters that do age and characters that don't. And it's going to be a thing if I can continue to do my comics that way.
like you have Thor. Is it safe to say Thor doesn't age like a normal human?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna do that too because I in my comic, if anybody's unfamiliar with it, Heroic Tales opens up with a 30s gangster and a Tommy gun, and then there's Zeppelins in the air. So my letterer said, "What year is this comic set in?" I was like, "Now." And he goes, "Well, I think," he goes, "I'm confused, and I'm one of the guys working on the comic." So we literally put an exact date on the comic, and I think that's going to be something I'm going to go forward with. Every issue is going to have a date on it because some comics are going to be set 10 years in the past and things like that. So I think that's just a good idea. I hate when the power levels are not clear. Like first you have fire power, but then you get him going supernova out of nowhere, or when someone has ice and then he can now just freeze the world. Yeah, power creep happens. I mean, look at the original Iceman back in issue number 1 of the X-Men. You know, he turned into a snowman and threw snowballs at people. And now what? He's an Omega class mutant that could cause an ice age on an entire continent. It just happens. I'm not a fan of that because then you have to up the villains. You know what I mean? And then you constantly, like, if you up the heroes, you have to up the villains. And you know what I mean? And it just makes things crazy. The example that I give is like Doctor Who. Every companion has to top the last companion. They can't just say, like, you know, I'm tired of this life, I'm going to go back and become an accountant. They have to save the universe and become external 9,000 beings. You know, it's like, knock it off. Back in the old days, the companions were just like, I'm ready to go get married and have kids now.
Tony says, RJ, what are your thoughts on Batman wearing body armor as opposed to traditional spandex costume? My thoughts are that Batman should be a detective. He should, if he's a crime fighter, he should be a detective. Spandex is all you need for that. But if he's going to be a superhero, he would need a body armor.
I love RJ. I love you so much. You want to get gay married to me?
Thank you. No.
But I agree with you 100%. I know Tony knows how I feel about this. That so far there hasn't been a Batman movie because every movie is a guy in armor just taking bullets in the chest. You know, that's Iron Man. Batman doesn't allow himself to be shot, or if he does get shot, that's a dramatic thing. Oh my God, Batman just got hit in the shoulder, and now he's still persevering, even though he's limping and his arm is dead and he's bleeding out. You know, and he's blacking out. Now he gets shot in the shoulder. Who cares? He's Iron Man.
George brings up, wrong one. George brings up a very interesting point here. Just I keep on knocking out. You got me back here. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I don't know if I left or you left, but
no, it's me.
Fake Captain Marvel can now cast magic like Doctor Strange, and Miles is now a vampire. I didn't know any of this, but Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, could use magic.
She basically became Doctor Strange for a little bit, but anyways, it was a ridiculous thing that happened about 5 years ago. But I was thinking about the fact that, do you remember the story arc from, I think it was probably late 80s, early 90s, Doctor Strange, where he did a spell which erased all vampires from the Marvel universe.
Yeah, he used the Darkhold book. Yeah.
Yeah, and that significantly altered the entire universe of Marvel comics, because in the 70s you got vampires all over the place, you got Doom of Dracula, all that kind of stuff. That was a brilliant move, if you ask me, for comics, because they could build back up to the return of vampires.
Right. Yeah. It made vampires back into the shadows, creepy, scary, and rare again. When there's like right now, there's too many mutants. It's almost shocking when you have a regular human in comics. Can I address what George says about Miles Morales is now a vampire? Excuse me, this is the first I'm hearing this, but this bolsters my belief that Miles Morales, he was Spider-Man, and then he was, they tried him out as Thor, and now he's a vampire. To me, this proves that Miles Morales should be, his power is he's whatever's popular. Like he's a mutant and he should take the name Zeitgeist, and Spider-Man is popular, and so Miles Morales becomes a copy of Spider-Man. And now the Fantastic Four movies coming out, Miles Morales should have he should be like a little Super Skrull. Now, the vampire movies are coming out, he changes his power set, and that's what I think about. That would make him a unique character in the fact that he's everything and copies. But I would kind of dig that character. It would explain. That's why he's Miles Morales and nobody accepts him as really Spider-Man. Like, he should just be Miles Morales, Zeitgeist, literally, and borrow from the real world. The Superman movies come out, so Miles Morales is like a Superman type. He gets a cape, he flies for a little while. I think that would make the character unique and kind of interesting.
A good way to actually begin, I think, to heal the wounds of Marvel Comics right now would be to have some kind of, I don't know, disintegration happen to everybody who doesn't belong in the timeline or this universe, right? And they basically all start to die.
Oh no! Like I would make it's funny that you said that, because in my world, in my comics there is other universes, but the universes have different laws of physics. So there's only one RJ, there's only one John's Longbox, there's only one Zactan. And if you were to go to the next universe over, you might not even recognize that you're on the Earth, because conditions change and stuff like that. But you can't live if you come from Earth B and you come over to Earth A, you have different molecules, your body is slightly different, and you could cause like a cancer that could literally cause the breakdown of the entire universe. You could be that little the butterfly effect that causes problems. So there's I'll introduce like a superhero that is the guardian of the multiverse. And one of his jobs is, this universe is too far gone, I got to destroy this universe before this cancer just and he's this poor guy who prunes the tree of the multiverse and literally kills billions of sentient beings because there's no other recourse, because some idiot traveled back and forth too many times between universes.
Tony has a question. He says, RJ, what are your thoughts on the more realistic take on Nolan's Batman trilogy? Well, I think it's an interesting story in itself, because I started off with Elsewhere stuff very early when it started coming out of DC. So I'm used to Elsewhere Batman, basically, Batman Holy Terror or Batman Gotham by Gaslight, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just used to different versions of Batman. This is just a different version of Batman.
Can I address what Rick Ray says about Batman bulletproof vests?
Sure. I'm not sure where that it's. I think it's up a little bit further, but see if I can find the comment.
I'll just read it. It says, even police would wear bulletproof vests. So Batman having there you go. Protective is reasonable. Yes, but go wear a bulletproof vest and get shot. you fall down, you break your ribs, it hurts. All it does is it saves your life. It doesn't protect you from being hurt. It doesn't protect you from damage, really. It protects you from a bullet penetrating your flesh and killing you. But you could still wear a bulletproof vest and get killed. There was a cop who got shot under the arm with and was killed because the bulletproof vest, doesn't go snug. So, and if you get shot with a bulletproof vest with a machine gun, you're still going to die because after a couple of bullets, the nylon threads are torn and it's compromised. So yeah, I if I was to write Batman, he would have some sort of Kevlar or DC magic science thing, but he would get shot and he would like get dropped and fall down and be like, okay, this vest is kind of now useless because it, a bulletproof vest only protects you from a couple of shots. So yeah, I agree. Having some sort of protection is smart if you're Batman, but to just casually walk through a brigade of bullets, you're Iron Man at that point. Same with Black Panther. I like Black Panther just wearing a cloth costume and with all of those senses and stuff like that, he should be sneaking up on people, So
I just think to myself that, let's say you're in Gotham, so New York City, right? So if you're a cop, if you're a detective, an actual detective in New York City, you're not going to be wearing a bulletproof vest everywhere you go.
Excellent point. That's a good point too. Like Batman should be, investigating, and then I could see like, okay, I'm tracking him down to the lair tonight. Tonight I'm going to suit up in the bulletproof vest, but the average night out when he's gathering clues,
because honestly, I got a brother who's a soldier, right? He used to wearing a bulletproof vest, all that kind of stuff. He does security, all those kind of things. The scary things that you got to do in your mind in order to make sure that you're safe when you're in a danger zone is just, bulletproof vest is just one of a myriad of things.
Yeah. Well, Warzone, I imagine you got grenades and RPGs and yeah. Bless your brother, man. I hope he's okay. I'm seeing.
Dan says, "Does Chuck Norris have powers?" No, that's Chuck Norris's power. That's Chuck Norris's power. He can do all this without having powers.
They goofing on me because they know that. I said a while ago. I said, "Oh, Chuck Norris was still doing that. That's so cringe at this point." And now everybody's like bombarding me with Chuck Norris. Aunt May was a herald of Galactus. I'm looking back at all the questions. There was something else that somebody said that I wanted to address, and I can't find it. Oh well. There are many heroes. Oh, when you were talking about like I have this burning story how to fix Marvel. We talk about Carol Danvers. Remember we were all joking, called her Carol Manvers, and she was looking more and more mannish.
Oh yeah, definitely. I made whole videos about how she's supposed to be Chuck Yeager in a woman suit.
Right. I would address that because to me, I believe like if it's in the comics, it has to be addressed. Like I don't like, let's just restart over here. Like if it's in the comics, it has to be addressed. Like that movie Misery, when she was like, no, Misery was buried. She was buried. So the next book, she has to be buried. You can't just ignore it. Yeah, that's the way I am. Luckily I don't have any authors tied up in my bedroom, or do I? Hey, RJ, what are you doing next week? Come on over. RJ, write Thomas Valiant like this. But anyway, I would have to address she looked like a man. And then I would investigate, Reed Richards is analyzing her. Like I would see like every once in a while she looks mannish and then she looks female-ish to the point they can't ignore it anymore. And Reed Richards sees that she has 2 sets of DNA. That's literally her origin. She got blasted. Captain Marvel.
Oh, yeah.
And she got Kree DNA, and that's her power. So I would say she has male DNA and she has female DNA. And now Reed Richards is like, it's metastasizing. You have cancer. Just like Marvel, you now have cancer. And you know what I mean?
I would love the fact if Carol Danvers died of cancer. I mean, that would put things back on a level of, okay, let's see actual heroes actually die,
Well, so of course Reed Richards extracts that other DNA. Now she's just pure female DNA. So now she looks like sexy Carol Danvers, all curvy like we used to, because all the male traces are taken out. And now they have Marvel again. They have his DNA. He's now a clone, but he doesn't have the memories. So he's just a blank slate. And, and he's just like, I'm part of you. I'm your brother kind of thing, and he doesn't like being compared to Captain Marvel. It's like, I'm not him. I'm her kind of thing, whatever. And then his cosmic senses kick in and he's like, why is everybody being manipulated by energy? And she's like, what are you talking about? He goes, you don't have cosmic, because Captain Marvel had cosmic awareness. What Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers, never did. So he's like, yeah, everybody's being manipulated by energy. So then they trace the source and they find, remember the mad bombs? Captain America, the mad bombs?
Oh, yeah.
So there was 3 mad bombs. One mad bomb would make like everybody in a house or a city block go crazy. The second mad bomb was big enough for a city. And the third mad bomb was big enough that if it ever went off, an entire continent would go crazy. And Captain America diffused them all. Well, here's the 4th mad bomb, like in the Mole Man's world, that's making the entire planet crazy. And Captain Marvel, goes in, they take care of the mad bomb. And now all of a sudden all the X-Men go, wait a minute. We've been bad guys. We've been mutant supremacists for the past 5 years, and Iceman is just like, you made me gay. And Captain, Jean Grey's just like, I can't believe I made you gay. And he's just like, we've been doing horrible. And now Scott Summers is like, I've been an insufferable bastard for like, oh my God, like how long have we been manipulated? Like, well, the mad bomb started out slowly and then all at once, and now every Marvel superhero is going on like an apology tour to show like it wasn't us, and then fix all the problems of the past 5 to 6 years of continuity, 10 years of continuity. That's how I would fix Marvel. And
one of the things
a new Marvel and a sexy Captain Marvel, Captain Marvel or whatever, Carol Danvers again.
One of the things that we're talking about, good comic runs, I think a underrated comic run, which I don't think is great, but it's underrated, is the Quasar stuff.
That was
good. That was an attempt to use the armbands from Captain Marvel and all that kind of history and things like that. I really liked Quasar when it came out.
Yeah, that was a good series. Yeah, that really was. Especially that issue where he was just getting beaten and he wouldn't surrender the information.
Right, they cut his hands off at that point, and the armband still wouldn't come off, and so they had to torture him to try to make him will them off.
Yeah, Marvel editors will never address the fake Captain Marvel, but still not answer for. Yeah, I know I'm in the minority in this, but Carol Danvers becoming Captain Marvel doesn't bother me because the character was literally there in 1968 in the first appearance of Marvel. Like the character has the gravitas to take the name. I just don't like what they've done with her. She should still be that curvy, sexy Carol Danvers that we read about in the Avengers and everything, like honoring her buddy's name, but like turning her into this like mannish Gestapo, telling us that she's the most popular. You don't get to tell us who's the most popular superhero. Like that needs to be earned.
It's like what's going on right now with the Miss Marvel thing. They're trying to retcon all of the X-Men in order to make her an X-Men from the time that all different X-Men came out.
Yeah, that is just not right. That is just not right. You don't get to do that. It's I don't know. My wife just had to be a Big Mac because she knows how to win my heart. I don't know. I lost my train of thought because Big Mac is distracting.
Tony has a question for me. He says, RJ, would you agree that Plastic Man should have never been allowed to join the JLA? I always saw him as a bit of a joke character. Well, they had Elongated Man. He was more the JLA character, if you ask me. So I don't understand why. Elongated Man was supposed to be, I don't know, the version of Plastic Man that was at the JLA, as far as I'm concerned. So I don't understand why they had 2 characters with the same powers.
Well, if I may address this, Plastic Man was created by Joe Cole in Quality Comics, which was owned by Will Eisner, and he was the first stretching superhero, if I may, I think, and he was serious. He was a serious character in a world everybody else was zany and goofy, and then they made him Jim Carrey, which is the exact opposite of what he was supposed to be. He's got a goofy costume and a goofy power set, but he was never treated as a joke. So when they brought him into the Justice League, if they made him like this kind of criminal reformed, like with ties to the underworld, I kind of like that, but I don't like this zany, goofy. They turned him into the Mask kind of character that he became. So I don't know. I like Elongated Man better because he's a detective. He uses his mind. You know what I mean? He does silly stuff, but it's kind of like he's goofing around with his wife. And I like that him and his wife had a real loving relationship. I hated that identity crisis. They turned into a psycho killer. Again, they can't have happy marriages in comic books, I guess.
Well, John, since you have a Big Mac in front of you and we've been talking for an hour, I think we should leave it there.
Oh,
and
can I show the covers to my comics before we go?
Oh, go right ahead, John. I'll put you on big screen here.
Okay. So this is cover A to Heroic Tales number 2. This is by Renzo Rodriguez, colored by Daniel de la Silva Rodriguez. So this is the Patriarch versus the Subterranean. The Subterranean, as you can see, is like a guy who lives underground. How's that for? This is. I'm only going to have 2 comics, but each comic has 2 covers. So it's a flip book. So you flip it over and you'll see the second cover. So this is the variant cover by, if you could put that, yeah, this is by Jose Garcia. So this is the variant cover, him fighting the Patriarch, fighting the Subterranean. You can see he's got mushroom plates growing out of his face and everything like that. And as he moves around, they break off in this hallucinogenic gas that's released. Share screen. This is the every issue of Heroic Tales has 2 stories. So this is the backup story. This is introducing Mary Sue. And yes, I'm goofing on the name Mary Sue, and she is perfect. But you have to realize that perfect is a subjective term. So she's perfect in the eyes of her grandmother. You can see her grandmother down there in the bottom. So what does an 80-year-old Chinese grandmother think is perfect? Well, she's a good girl. She's a good Roman Catholic. She's a doctor at age 21, and she's teased by the girls in her sorority, in her college, for not joining the sorority and stuff like that. So I'm kind of goofing on the idea of Mary Sue being a perfect character. And then I'm hitting wrong buttons again. And then the final variant cover is by Josh Howard, who draws the cutest girls in the world. So when I knew I was making a female character, I had to have Josh Howard draw a variant cover. So there's going to be only 2 covers, the Renzo edition and then the Jose Garcia, Josh Howard edition of Heroic Tales. It's going to go live on April 4th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's going to be on Fun My Comic, and it's so much better than the first issue. it's so the first issue, I just wanted to introduce characters. Now things are happening, things are moving. I get to finally tell stuff that I've been wanting to talk about since, I guess 2 years ago is when I started this whole project of making a comic book. So can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't know if I was off. So that's my news.
No, it sounds great. I can't wait to actually read them, John. Honestly, your book is one of the ones where it's like I put it down as that was an actual comic book.
Oh, thank you.
Quite honestly.
Coming from you, that's a really good compliment. And RJ, if you didn't make your comic, I wouldn't have made my comic. You inspired me to make a comic. So that's why you get comics, and that's why I can't wait for your comics. There's a couple of people in this independent sphere that and it pretty much, I work with them all. Like Brian Bow does Wolf and Batsy. He's doing a page in my comic. Fabrizio Aiello, who does Horace H. Hoover, he's doing a page in my comic. Renzo does your comic. He does my comic. I just think there's so much positivity. And somebody earlier was talking about like all the drama in the chat. That was a question I was looking for that I couldn't. Just ignore it. Just ignore it. Don't give crazy people a reason to rally. Just ignore it and focus on making good fun comics. Yes, I mean Eastern Daylight Standard Time. What did I say? 9:00 Eastern Standard Time on Michael Bancroft's channel. Friday night on his channel. He's going to be. He's one of the most positive, great guys in comic books. I'm so thankful that he's going to host my launch.
Great. Michael is great. He's the first person to reach out to me, and he said, "Hey, you want this PDF of how to do up a really good campaign?" I was like, "Yes, please."
He did that for you?
Oh yeah,
What a
before,
guy.
yeah,
Yeah,
a long time ago.
he's just, I reached out to him. Would you host my comic? And he was like, yeah, let me see first. I don't blame him. Maybe it looks like garbage. He doesn't want to embarrass himself. And he was like, sure, come on. And we did so good. I had $1,000 goal, and I think we did like $2,000 in an hour on his channel. It was so exciting. It was so much fun. So that's what and it shouldn't be as long to make. I got a good team of people working with me. I'm a little bit more organized. I was such a RJ, what do you know now that you didn't know when you first started making your comics? Like, do you have like a process now? Are there things that you didn't know you had to do?
Oh, I don't even know if I could make a list. It's so long, but yeah, basically, most dealing with the artists is really hard. I'm sorry to say, but you got to have everything so that it's a standard format and everything's in the same because it's all digital, right? So everything is the same file format. Everything has the same DPI. Everything, all that kind of stuff, and then you trade it back towards the colorist and then to the letterer, and everything's still got to be the same. It's that's what drives me nuts, and I had to learn all that from scratch.
Yeah, there was like I just assumed the artist would draw the logos. I didn't know I had to hire somebody to make logos. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know that the letterer wouldn't edit out typos. You know what I mean? Things like that. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that pre-press was a step. So there was just like I'm like almost done, and I'm like, I got to get a pre-press guy. Oh my god! Like, I got to get another guy. Things like that. So now I got everybody. It's organized. Like, I didn't know about like transferring files, like downloading this, because the artists, they scan everything and they send you a good quality stuff so it could be printed. I just thought it was like, okay, email me the images. No, you got to download like high quality. I didn't know how to do that. And oh my God, I was freaking out. So,
especially since artists know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what programs they're working on, and they send you stuff like, oh yeah, just use this program and open it. It's like, I have no idea how to use that program.
Yes,
I've never even heard of it before.
Yeah, people like, okay, you just go to zippity doo dah and you open up the thing and you zip top doop. I'm like, and then I'm talking with Renzo, whose English is a second language. So I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So, like,
that as well. I love the fact that we can work around the world with different people. But again, got Renzo, whose English is second language. Got my colorist, who's I'm pretty sure English is his second language. The other artists, I got another one. The guy in Peru, guy in Japan, the guys in Philippines. All of them, English is their second language. So trying to translate some of the things that I'm trying to get them to understand sometimes is very difficult.
Yeah, it's funny because I'll write a script, and I write a full script and I send the whole thing at once. And then Renzo will send me back, or anybody. I don't want to call out Renzo. And I'm like, no, that and I realize the words mean something different. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, okay, no. Like, there was a baseball diamond in issue number 2. And I don't know why, but he drew like a sewer caps and everything. And I realized what I described meant something completely different in not even just Spanish, but Mexican Spanish. So he goes, it's Photoshop. I could fix it in a couple of taps. He just removes a layer and puts it. But you know what I mean? I'm like, oh yeah, like this. We're working with different languages here, and I could barely master English. So
I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I thank you for showing the covers. I hope everybody's excited. I got a couple of comics in the works, but right now it's time to concentrate on Heroic Tales. So, and you got Fade to Blue. When are you going to be launching that?
I don't know when I'm launching Fade to Blue because we're still working on the very last pages of book 2. But here's the thing: a lot of people keep on saying I want a physical copy, but the whole point of it was that there wasn't supposed to be physical copies, so that I could test out the basically the sales numbers as compared to digital and whatever else. So I don't really know. We're putting bandying that one back and forth with my artists.
Don't be Richard C. Meyer and not give the fans what they want. If print them if the people want them.
Plus, yeah, there's a lot of things up in the air right now. So
I didn't want to do digital copies of my comics because I'm like, comic books should be read. And then I'm so glad that I made digital copies. A lot of people overseas didn't want to pay for shipping. So I just would have alienated fans or basically said F you to fans. So I gave them what they wanted. Now I'm glad I did it.
Although there was fellow who I was just on his channel, although it hasn't come out yet. He was talking where he does Crom. He basically has a channel called Crom. So he does like the actual everything that has to do with any book that has Crom in it. Anyways, he was telling me about his printer, and basically they're just all over the world and they just print whatever country they're in, right?
Oh, wow. That is cool. Oh, I know you already said goodnight, but now you just made me think of one. Do you think the concept of the collectible issue is going to be dead now?
Oh no, like we were talking about last week when we were talking to Rini, I think there's going to be new standards of why they are collectible, and the hunt to try to figure out how they are, like say the first printing or things like that, what timeline that they were printed in and all that kind of stuff is going to be much more complicated, but it's still going to be there.
Because I'm trying to get I bought this. Oh, I'm not even on the screen, but I bought this. For those of you who can't see, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #2. RJ's covering up my face. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #2, first printing. I never bought the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I got #1, but I got the 5th printing because I can't afford the first printing, and 5th was the earliest printing that I could afford. Like now that if you get a printer that's going to be, there's one in Argentina, there's one in England, and there's one in like, what is the collectible? It's going to be interesting. Like, will that kill obsessive compulsives like me that just need the first printing? Like, I paid extra to buy a first printing of Fiendish from Rini, and she was kind of like laughing because she's a manga person, and I don't like. Do people collect first editions of manga? Like, is that still a thing?
I don't even know if that's a thing, but I mean, I can remember back in the 80s when they had the very first Dark Horse Aliens come out. I needed the first printing of the first edition of the one that came out.
Yeah, I like Pete Samedi's for Alterna. A couple of his comics he did second and third printings, and I was like, Pete, I got to get a first print. So he sold me copies from his personal collection because I'm a crazy person. Yeah, but there you go. Now, I got to go to bed. I got to wake up a half hour earlier now because I'm on a different job location.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much to everybody for showing up in the chat just to listen to John and I talk comics, and hopefully we gave you some good ideas about what to read if you haven't read those old books. And don't forget, there is the link in the description for John's book, for my 2 campaigns, and for the sign-up page for Fade to Blue if you want to be informed when the project goes live. So thanks again, John, and everybody else in the chat, and I'll see you all later.
See ya. Bye-bye.